This is Hart Logan. I often am hosting these events. Unfortunately, Farzan's unable to be with us, and George Avery, our MC and co-host with the most, is out today. He's having a minor procedure being done. So you are stuck with me and our exciting speaker, Brian Robana, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. But before I do, wanted to remind us all of the oath. And we hear the oath a lot. We start at the top of every call. It's actually in the invitation that we send you. And I like to think about what do the words actually mean. So I'm going to read it through right now. And the oath is we are repairers, insurers, and vehicle manufacturers who hereby declare the possibility of aligning our industry to a common vision, which puts the consumer first. We stand for sweeping innovation. We commit to transparent, customer-focused solutions, and we are accountable to invent a radical new future where safety, efficiency, and cost-effective processes are our guiding principle. And as I read it out loud, I'm struck from my perspective, as most of us are often struck by our own perspective, that as a consumer, knowing that these three diverse groups, that the people in this room are having a conversation that's about how best to serve the consumer, how best to repair cars, how best to create cars that are safer, to create roads that are safer, gives me tremendous peace of mind. The world is increasingly complex. Cars are increasingly complex. I was recently ran into a woman who was driving a car, borrowed her sister's car, and it was 8 years old. The car was only 8 years old. And she had actually flown in from France, borrowed her sister's car, and said to her sister, you know, it was scary for me to drive a car that was so technologically out of date, that it didn't turn the lights on automatically when I entered a tunnel. It didn't have proper GPS. It didn't have beeps or warnings when things got too close or too far away. Like, I didn't realize how much this technology is making a difference in making me a safer driver. And as she said that, all I could think about was, my goodness, I'm so glad that everyone is on this call today because it is all new, complex, and interesting. And there still is the old technology as well. And so having us together, having these conversations really is making a difference. So thank you so much for being here. And before I introduce our speaker, one last thing. I would like to remind you how you can interact on the call. So, a couple things to remember. Your phone is the way that you're going to communicate. So throughout the course of the day, if you have a question, press 1 on your phone. If you have a burning question you have to ask immediately, it can't wait, you do not want the slide to change, press 2. And if you are enjoying what you're hearing, press 5 on your phone. 5 is the equivalent of applause. So the other thing is we are going to have some pictures in the slideshow today. In order to screen share, please go back to your original email invitation. There is a link that says to screen share. Click on that link and you will be able to see the screen as we go along. So our speaker today is Brian Robana from Robana Direct, LLC. He's also the founder of Eco Repair Systems in North America. And Robana Direct specializes in creating, supplying, and co-developing solutions for small and medium damage repairs for OEM collision repair programs. He originally began 16 years ago on new business development with repairers, OEMs, and product manufacturers, related structural repair equipment. His mission is to drive down the severity of repairs based on OEM-approved and well-balanced DRP-approved repair processes. Interesting fact about Brian, he originally went to school for architectural design. He got his contractor license when he was 20 and then ended up in his dad's business, which of course was not that. That said, he's come full circle because in the business now, he's calling upon his drafting, structural engineering, and 3D design skills. And we are extra especially lucky to have Brian calling in from a little business pleasure trip in Spain. So Brian, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And take it away.
Well, thank you, Art, for your time and for this opportunity here today as well. So one of the first things we're going to start to delve into here is what does repair versus replace and reducing the severity of collision repair present as far as an opportunity. So if we can move to the next slide, number 2. A little bit slower to load on my side, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a heads up because of my distance. So it says here, let's start with a few baseline questions. If we can get to them quickly, I don't think 60 seconds is a reality, but we will try. So let's forward to the next slide here, number 3. And so the first question is it best to replace parts with new parts to maintain the vehicle's OEM certified pre-owned status? So that would be the question, and we have a couple options here. If you can choose your answer and select by phone. I don't know how we're going to do that, Art.
Yes. So if you think it is best to replace parts with new parts to maintain the vehicle OEM certified pre-owned status, press 1 on your phone if the answer is yes. Press 2 on your phone if the answer is no, and press 3 on your phone if the answer is not sure. So is it best to replace parts with new parts to maintain vehicle's OEM certified pre-owned status? Press 1 if the answer is yes, 2 if the answer is no, and 3 if the answer is not sure. So the numbers are coming in. Keep them coming slowly but surely. And let us know where you are. So again, 1 is yes, 2 is no, and 3 is not sure. And it looks like, hold on, let's see. Oh, we got a couple more coming in. So this is interesting. A little less, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. If the answers are coming in, oh, we just have a couple more. All right, so 50% of the callers say yes, it is important. About 25% say no, and about 25% are unsure.
All right, perfect. So it's kind of more of one of those trick questions more than anything else, but at least it got us the answers that we're looking for. So when we're looking at repairs in general, the real question is, does that part need to be replaced or does it need to be repaired? And the tricky part is with CPO status, as a lot of the vehicle manufacturer programs will confirm, is that the best thing to do for that CPO status is to not actually replace that part. The ideal situation would be to repair that part. Each OEM has their own constraints as to what allows the repairer to actually do repairs, and then what are the constraints that makes them have to go the route of replacement. So that's something you do need to confer with the OEM documentation, work instructions, and then make that judgment call based on what that is. But as far as the vehicle itself for CPO status, generally speaking, you're not allowed to actually replace structural panels that are rivet bonded or welded to the vehicle, because now that is no longer CPO-able. So it's one of those trick questions, but that's how we can move forward in some of these other slides here. So if we could move forward to slide number 4, that'll be great. So here, as it's loading on my side of the screen, it says, is there truth in the claim made by some repairers that in most cases you do not have to detrim the vehicle when repairing panels? And we've got our possible answers there.
Yeah, press 1 if the answer is yes, 2 if the answer is no, and 3 if you're not sure. So, is there truth in the claim made by some repairers that in most cases you do not have to detrim the vehicle when repairing panels? 1 yes, 2 no, 3 not sure. So the answers are coming in. Keep them coming. I know sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get them all in. So last call for answers, 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for not sure. Oh, this one's interesting as well. So the big winner, let's see. We got a couple more coming in. Got a couple more answers coming in. All right. So looks like only about 26% think the answer is yes. A little over 50% think the answer is no, and about 22% aren't sure.
Okay. Well, that's good because that's why we're here today. So when we're talking about de-trimming, looking for backside access, things like that, the real first main objective of reducing the severity of repair, and of course this is contingent on the type of damage that's there and the severity of it, but the objective here is to try not to have to do that because we're looking at reducing cycle time, increasing touch time, and then making the repair less intrusive. So by doing that, you get all those benefits. The benefit of not detrimming the vehicles, especially if it's some car, SUV that you're not familiar with from the technician standpoint, they don't have to get into figuring out how to do a lot of that stuff and how to put it back on. You don't have a lot of collateral damage. So the objective for doing this panel type repair program and system is to not have to do that whenever possible. So if we can move to slide number 5, that'd be great. All right, so some of the things that we need to consider, and then we can jump into the next slide, number 6. So in this OEM DRP world, everyone has a little bit of what they need. They have their long list of requests, the things they say you have to do to be on one program or another. But what we need to always consider is that, from the OEM standpoint, there are repair standards and there are requirements. So in this day and age of, people having situations, everyone wants to find blame and fault, we definitely need to make sure that every single repair that's done, there is some reference to documentation. And if not, at least contacting the OEM representative and asking them that question if it's really something that's not so clear to you, to make sure that you're giving consideration to their repair standards and requirements. The second thing a lot of facilities have is a need to pay attention to what the DRP program requires states or needs them to follow along its guidelines to stay within that program. So that's one of the other needs that you have to keep in mind. From the collision repair side, we obviously have cycle time. One of the most important things is that a car comes in an efficient manner and it leaves in an efficient manner. We don't want where the car makes 2 steps forward, goes back 1 step, and then goes 3 steps forward, and then back and forth, back. None of that's efficient. So that linear, progressive, in the front door, out the front door is really critical for the repair center. Also, obviously, the profitability, which ties into that efficiency. And the last one here is what is best for the vehicle. And a lot of that relates to what CPO status, what translates to resale value. If you get into any excessive, we'll call it intrusive repairs. As we all know, Carfax reports certain things. There are disclosures. There's diminished value, potential situations. So, in this case, keeping what's in best mind for the vehicle is trying to repair rather than replace some of these welded body structural panels in these situations. So if we can now move to slide number 7. So here's one of our first photos as it pops up here on my screen. And it's one of those tricky photos that you'll look at. When we shot this photo, we tried to use the headlights of another vehicle to kind of give you a little bit more of a feel of the contour of the damage, the depth of it, and obviously the primary and the secondary. So by taking a look at this question or this photo here, our first thing is you would have in a repair situation or as a carrier and say, okay, should this be repaired or should this be replaced? And so Hart, you can help us out on how do we dial in those numbers.
So press 1 if you think you should replace it, 2 if you think you should repair it, and 3 if you're not sure. So 1, you should repair the door. 1, you should replace the door. Goodness, now I'm confusing everyone. 1, you should replace the door. 2, you should repair the door. And 3, you're not sure. All right, so we only have about a third of people voting. So let's see, everybody vote on this one. So again, 1 is repair, 1 is replace, 2 is repair, 3 is not sure. So if you don't know, go ahead and press 3, but I can see that not everybody has voted yet. So again, that's 1 to replace, 2 to repair, and if you're not sure, please press 3. All right, so we're getting a few people that say not sure. But what is absolutely fascinating is it's only about a little less than 10% aren't sure, but for repair and replace, it's a dead heat. It's exactly 50-50.
Okay, well, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. It lets me get to the rest of the presentation with some value here. So from our side, the correct answer is you're not sure. And the reason why we are not sure is because from this photo, we actually cannot determine if the intrusion beam is damaged on this door. So we do not know if the safety structure elements on this door are damaged or not. So that would require us to physically check that to be sure, and then we can make that decision if we replace the door, if we repair the door. So this is working out really well. So if we can move to slide number 8, that would be great. Okay, so here in this next slide, it looks like we have a little jumbling of letters here, but it says steel panel repair legend. And if we look at that, we've got our little icons, our little key legend here that shows, what we would do and how we would do that step by step. So if we jump first to, actually, let's just leave this here for a second. So what it's calling out for is our large glue pull system. And if you remember what the damage looked like on a prior photo, it had that, we'll call it vertical up and down large crease. Who knows what the person had hit with the vehicle or if they were struck by something, but it had that vertical crease. So here in the photo, we're showing 2 of our bridge systems with those blue and yellow tabs, which are actually, it's a form of hot glue bonding to that panel. So we have left the paint on, and what we are doing here for the sake of the vehicle, the benefit for that, the vehicle, and also for the benefit of the insurance carrier in this situation, is doing an attempt to repair. So none of us really know what's going to happen next. We did inspect for the intrusion beam damage. It did not have damage, luckily. So by doing this, we try to see what would be our next stages of repair and if we can keep down this path of leaving as much paint on. The paint is also our reflective guide coat. So if you look to the left and to the right of the damage, you see the reflections of the surroundings and the things around us. And we also use that as well as an LED light to determine, is a repair going the way we think it's going or not? The one thing we don't want to do, and what we're steering away a lot of today's technicians, is from feeling with their hand and determining basically if the repair is good enough based on touch. What we want to do is convince them and get them to look at the panel, because at the end of the day, when the vehicle owner receives the vehicle back, they're not going to touch the panel. What they're going to do is they're going to see the panel. So we want our technicians, when they learn how to do the repairs, to use their eyesight as their primary sense to actually accomplish this. So if we could jump to slide number 9. Here we show a little bit of what I call fine-tuning and finessing. So we're still in this glue pull stage and mode. We've extracted, we'll call it a large portion, maybe 50% if you want to give it a percentage, where we've reduced that damage. And now we've dropped down to our smaller little glue pull tabs. Now we do have proprietary glues and we do have proprietary tabs that allow us to do this, and of course the tooling. So this would be our small system now that we've implemented. If we could jump to slide number 10. Now you'll see that we've exhausted the ability to use the glue. So now what you would be left with, and I'll call it a fine crease line in the areas where the points of impact were on that door. So what we're doing now is we've moved to our steel dent repair system. And if you look at that fine copper colored point, what we're doing with this electrode is actually walking down the valley of the crease, squeezing and lifting, and then actually allowing that to release, and we're walking down that crease to basically get that metal finish. If we jump to slide number 11, if it loads, be able to jump to slide 11. It could be just my side.
There we go.
It's loaded. Yep. Okay, it's loaded on my side as well. So now you can see I call it the before and the after. So again, going back to the first stage was to determine if it was repairable. The only way you can do that is through a physical inspection to make sure that the intrusion beam is not damaged. And we've gone through the steps of the glue, and then we did the fine point electrode squeeze lifter device attached to our dent repair system. And now you can see on the right-hand side how we were able to essentially metal finish those low areas. Obviously, there's a little bit of a skim coat that will be required to refinish that. More sanding obviously will take place, so that's not just the way it looks, but just to show you how we keep the paint on the vehicle up until the last minute to once again ensure that we're able to get that metal finish repair. And that will be essentially what the customer is expecting. You know, no one wants a door filled with Bondo or filler or anything like that. So that would be what our finished product looks like. We could jump to slide number 12.
You're there.
Okay, so here's another question, and it is, what method of collision repair provides the fastest cycle time opportunity? So out of the choices here that Hart will read you, what methods of collision repair provides the fastest cycle time opportunity?
So press 1 on your phone if replacing panels provides the fastest cycle time opportunity. Press 2 on your phone if repairing panels provides the fastest cycle time opportunity. And press 3 on your phone if you're not sure. So it's 1 if replacing is fastest, 2 if repairing panels is fastest, or 3 if you're not sure. So the numbers are coming in. So keep them coming. So again, it's 1 if replacing panels is the fastest cycle time opportunity, 2 if repairing panels is the fastest cycle time opportunity, and 3 if you are not sure. Let's see if we have any more hands coming up. All right, well this one has a clear winner. Very few people actually think replacing panels is the fastest, only 4%. Almost 70% believe that repairing is the fastest, and about 26% aren't sure.
All right, great. So it looks like we're making some progress now. So yes, in general, and that's obviously if things are repairable and it's deemed repairable for all safe reasons, repairing would be the fastest. And the reason why is we all know it's much easier to get an authorization for repair rather than it is for replace when speaking with an insurance company. Everybody wants to get the car in and out as fast as possible. The carrier is one of them. So obviously that authorization will be faster. The next reason why is if you're replacing a part, you have to order a part. So ordering the part is just the first part of it, which does require somebody to walk to a desk, make a call, make sure they're ordering the right part number. Then you have to wait for it to be delivered, which that might be the same day if you're in the best case circumstance, but most likely it'll be the next day. Then it's received, then it has to be mirror matched to verify that it's actually the right part. So all that takes time. And then you also have to consider for refinish time and the fact that blend areas do increase as you replace an entire panel. So that's where, in general, most cases, yes, repairing a panel would be the fastest cycle time opportunity. And that's why we spend so much time on the things that we do. So if we could jump to slide number 13. All right, so here we see a couple photos of some very common damage that happens all the time everywhere around the world because driver's licenses are handed out so easily, right? So if you look at these photos, they're more rhetorical than anything else at this point. But by looking at the fender, you have another one at the quarter panel, another one down at the bottom right is another quarter panel. The first thing you always have to ask yourself is, is this really repairable? What do I do? How can I even, get to think that it could be possibly an opportunity to repair it? Or is it strictly something that's going to be replaced? So you might take into account the value of the part or the amount of time, because you might think it might exceed the value of the part. So those are all things, and the availability of the part. You might be in a situation where it's back ordered or it's not available right away for whatever reason, and that could change your decision. You could forward to slide 14. So as we're walking through you a couple of those steel panel repair situations, we look at our legend, and this is how we determine and how we blueprint plan how we're going to actually go about the process. So the very first one is what we call our PDR rod system. Everyone's familiar with that, I would assume. That does require backside access. It's a very precise tool for the body shop industry. We do not use this. We do not use these to actually complete an entire repair like a PDR technician might, because the efficiency doesn't exist there. But to reduce the damage, to make great improvements in a very short period of time, it is a productive way of doing that, and that's why we have that in the collision repair side of the industry. The second one is the small glue pull tabs that you got to see how that was our step 2 in that door repair. The third one down is the large glue pull system. Those are fairly large tabs. They come in different sizes and dimensions, and that moves a lot of material as it's bonded to the panel. And then you do release that with a 90% alcohol base, so you do save the paint, but it does allow you to move a lot of material from quarter panels to rocker panels even, and just as well as that door panel you had seen in one of the prior slides. The last item there is a steel panel repair kit. We have bridges, that little squeeze type electrode. So all these tools are things that we need to decide when we're looking at that repair or that opportunity for repair. How will we do it, whether it's the estimator to make a judgment for time, or if it's a technician, so that way they make the first step, the right first step, and it's always progressive and they don't end up doing things twice or doing anything that's excessive. So if we jump to slide number 15, this was one of the first photos that we had seen there. So we are going to ask you on this one, what do you think when we're looking at this repair versus replace? So we have our options there.
Oh, yeah. So if you would replace this fender, press 1 on your phone. And if you would repair the fender, press 2 on your phone. So keep them coming. The responses are coming in. Press 1 if you would replace it, 2 if you would repair it. So keep them coming. The numbers are coming in. It's close. It's very, very close. Keep them coming. So 1 if you would replace, 2 if you would repair. And it looks like it was a horse race at first, but it looks like we do have a winner. It's about 60-40. About 40% would replace it and 60% would repair it.
So this one is one of those good ones that you have to actually make that judgment call. It obviously is we'll call it the lower price point spectrum for parts for vehicles. So the things you need to consider, one is, how much blending do I want to do? Is the part available? Can I get it today? All these types of things. And then the last one is, how long would it take me to repair it? So if we jump to slide 16, we cannot get into, for obvious reasons, the time that it takes to repair anything for this call, but if you look at what we've done here is we've simply removed paint in the lowest area of damage or in a profiled character line, which would be that arch area of that fender. So we have welded our keys on here, and it's going to get set up for a pull. So with the bridge system, we would attach that. We would use our hammers, obviously, and we would finesse that damage out. And if we jump to slide 17, you can actually see what that finished product looks like. So in the event that you make that judgment call that for the sake of time of getting this car in and out in the same day to paint, let's just say, it is completely possible to do that. It's one of those things you just have to make that call. So, we do see that as repairable. You do have that tremendous benefit of cycle time. And that cash flow throughput for the facility is much, much higher if that car has a 0-day cycle time, or if it's a 1 day, or if it's a 2 day. So in this case, you can actually make big things happen in a short amount of time. So if we jump to slide 18, we have a question here, and it is, in general, how is the vehicle corrosion protection best maintained when the vehicle is being repaired? So that would be one of the most important things that we have to consider. So Art can help us out.
It's a good one. Is it 1, when new parts are used, or 2, when panels are repaired, or 3, not sure? So in general, how is the vehicle's corrosion protection best maintained when repaired? Press 1 on your phone if it's when new parts are used. Press 2 on your phone if it's when panels are repaired. And press 3 on your phone if you're not sure. So 1, new, 2, repaired, and 3, not sure. So it's interesting, as a layman, I would definitely, this is one I would have a guess on. But so let's, as they're coming in, press 1 if it's new parts, 2 if it's repair parts, and 3, you're not sure. All right, well, sorry, some last minute answers are coming in. I think it's about time to close up the poll. All right, so about 20% said that the best way to maintain corrosion is when new parts are used. A little over 50% said when they're repaired, and almost 30% said they weren't sure.
All right, good. So the bulk of the group voted correctly. So what this question is referring to is seams and joints of structural parts, body panels that are attached to them, whether it's rivet bonding, welding. So whenever you remove a factory part, you're disturbing that factory seam. So that factory seam is very, very difficult to replicate in its entirety because you do have the inability to access certain backside points where the panels are being joined. So once you've attached that new panel on, you have maybe boxed in the entire area and you can't actually get to some of these spots. So moisture can get in there and whatnot, and that's where rust in certain areas, we'll call it to maybe East Coast, salted roads, that kind of thing, or high humidity areas. That's where certain things like that become a problem. Whereas when you're repairing that panel, all those factory OEM seams, joints, welded areas, bonded areas, the factory cavity wax that has been injected in those, that's all there and it's maintained. So you're not contaminating that, you're not inhibiting it in any particular way. You're not obviously not trying to replicate it. So that would be the best way in general to maintain that corrosion protection is through a repair. So if we could jump to slide 19. With that in mind, it looks like some of my conversion to just got our thing covered up there. So anyways, it says repair, replace. And we have a couple versions or 2 opportunities for answers there. So what would you do is the question.
So press 1 if you would repair, and press 2 if you would replace. 1 if you'd repair, 2 if you would replace. So the answers are coming in slowly but surely. So again, it's 1 if you would repair, and 2 if you would replace. And let's see if we have any more. 1 if you would repair, 2 if you would replace. So it's close. Looks like one's, again, looks a little bit like a 60-40 split. So 60% would repair and 40% would replace.
Okay, so obviously that first question was leading into this second one. You would, in every case, have to look at the vehicle manufacturer's work instructions if there are anything related to repairs. That would be the first thing to do. The second thing that I always suggest people to do would be to download those repair instructions from the vehicle manufacturer for this particular area is if you are going to replace it. Now, the reason why is because you want to see if on the backside, if there's any braces or anything that you're unaware of. Obviously, none of us have X-ray vision, so we can't see, to see if there's anything that's damaged behind there. So that'll be the first thing. The second thing would be to determine if there's any bonded areas, not welded, but bonded areas that might be disturbed from that damage. So once you've gotten through determining all that as best as possible, and you go down the route of, okay, I'm ready to repair, then you would go ahead and go through the repair. And if we jump to slide 20, we get into our legends here. So being that it's a fairly boxed-in area, you see from the taillight there's not much access, limited number of holes, so we definitely do not drill into panels to gain access for PDR rods or anything like that. The gas filler neck, if you look, the plastic has been removed, so if someone did do an inspection, there was limited access to that point. So they're basically left with topside repair access only. And that's why we've led to the assumption that we're only going to be able to use a large glue pull system or our steel key welding system. If we jump to slide 21, you kind of see where on the left side we've welded those keys just like we did on that fender. That was the extraction point, and you see there's that bottom lip area where we have not yet removed the paint. There is a low crease area. We would once again weld those keys in there, extract them out with a bridge, and afterwards you actually see that that entire job was able to be done through that key and glue pull system, and you end up with metal finish repair. So that's something that, you know, time-wise, once again, we can't get into that discussion, but you can see it's very, very effective. If the vehicle had to be detrimmed, if the part had to be ordered, that's a lot less or a lot more time that it would take than it would be just to contact the insurance company, say we want to get the attempt for repair, and actually head down that route with the glue pull system first, go through the welding tabs. Again, the benefit of doing this as well is if you're unfamiliar with this vehicle, the last thing you want to do is start detrimming a vehicle that you're not entirely familiar with if the opportunity to repair actually exists. It just makes your life easier. It gets the car in and out of the shop faster. The last thing you want is to, you know, be married to a job that you just started and now it's getting complicated. So by doing this type of repair, it's a lot less invasive and quicker and faster on the cycle time. If we jump to slide 22, there's another one. So again, we're looking at a quarter panel, more severe in appearance. It says SUV at this point, so you can definitely see where it's been detrimmed to verify, to look at. So and this is a situation a lot of the insurance adjusters would be in. The vehicle's detrimmed, they're looking at it, and the question is, do I repair or do I replace this?
So if you would replace it, press 1 on your phone. And if you would repair it, press 2 on your phone. And I say I appreciate some of you are already entering your answers even before we say, which is fantastic. So press 1 on your phone if you would replace it. Press 2 on your phone if you would repair. So they're coming in. I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend here. If you would replace, press 1. If you would repair, press 2. And a couple more are still coming in. If you would replace, press 1. If you'd repair, press 2. And again, it's about a 60-40 split. A little more than 60% would replace, and a little less than 40% would repair it.
Okay. So we would ask those same questions as we did before. You know, are there any damaged bonded, you know, points in this vehicle in that arch area? Again, going back to downloading the work instructions from the vehicle manufacturer, just verifying that nothing structural behind there has been damaged by looking at those repair instructions. So if we jump to slide 23, from a blueprinting perspective, we need to find, okay, if we're going to do this repair or attempt to repair, where are the lowest lying areas? And that's what we want to address first. So we have, again, a couple options. Because there's no access, if you look at that taillight pocket, it's completely sealed. There's no way to get anything in from the backside. We, once again, only have topside access to do that repair. We would resort to the large glue pull tab system, extracted with the bridge, and again, the key welding. And for the sake of time, if you jump to slide 24, we actually see that through that working process of welding keys and glue pull tabs, again, we have another metal finish repair. So nothing was disturbed seam-wise, verified by the work instructions, and it's another large accomplishment for that repair center. So another important part just to keep reminding you is that if you're unfamiliar with a vehicle, you don't want to get into detrimming it. It's just more hassle and work than sometimes it's worth. And the best thing is just to look at cycle time, because that does affect the CSI. It affects, obviously the customer experience, the fact that the keys to keys is shorter, the CPO status of the vehicle is maintained if this manufacturer had that particular type of program. And it also is a good thing for both parties. The carrier, the length of rental is much, much lower. And for the shop, if they take the gross profit they've earned on the job and divide it by the number of days the vehicle actually sat on premises, it's a much higher per day GP value. So if they had ordered a part, they would have to order it, wait for it, obviously get an approval before even doing any of that. So I could very easily add 1 to 2 to 3 days to that. If you take your job's gross profit now and divide it by those additional days, it ends up being lower. So we try to look at repair when it's safe, OEM approved, as much as possible. So if we jump to slide 25, you can actually see the difference. So the trick is that you may not be sure, but doing the attempt to repair with the glue pull system is really going to be your best advocate as to making the next best decision with both your technician, the rider, and also the carrier, the insurer of the vehicle, because you just don't know a lot of times. But doing that attempt to repair will tell you one way or another where it's going the right way or not. And if we could jump to, I think, Art, should we try to stretch it out for a few more minutes?
Yeah, I think we have time to go a little bit deeper today.
Okay, so let's jump into slide 29. Okay, there we are. So we've talked about steel, so the next thing is, what about aluminum? So the question is it faster repair dents on aluminum because there's less spring back in the material? So there's always that question of how is aluminum different than steel? And this is a pretty valid question that we've been asked. So I'd like to hear what you have to say.
So, yes, so press 1 if the answer is yes, 2 if the answer is no, and 3 if you're not sure. And so while those numbers are coming in, I can't tell if someone voted early or if they had a burning question. So if you when this is done, if you have a burning question, please press actually 4 on your phone when this poll is done. I couldn't tell if someone was early or if someone was dying to ask a question. But in the meantime, is it faster to repair dents on aluminum because there's less spring back in the material? So press 1 if the answer is yes, 2 if the answer is no, 3 if you're not sure, and the results are coming in. It looks like, wow, so pretty low, a little less than 10% said yes, over 60% said no, and about 30% wasn't sure.
All right. So it is not faster repair dents on aluminum in general. And the reason why is because it doesn't have that spring back. So the spring back and the memory that that we're used to finding in steel is actually what makes steel repair faster and easier. So if we jump to slide number 30, if it loads up on my side, here's a quarter panel. And so before we get into the question, I'll tell you a little bit about why that last question is a no. So if we look at the damage on this vehicle, and if we talk about the process of aluminum panel repair, it actually requires you to weld studs if you're going down that route. So the whole stud welding process does take a little more time, and we actually use heat to thermally increase the expansion rate of aluminum to get it to go the direction we want to by setting it up with a bridge. So when you have damage like this on this quarter panel, you do have to know that it is going to take you a little bit longer. The process is a little bit different, so you have to make that call. You know, is this something that I would repair or is something I would replace? And keeping in mind, look at over by that rear passenger door. So it's a little bit of a trick question. You can see that shadow that shows that difference there. So we're ready for some answers, Art.
All right. So if you would replace, if you'd replace that quarter panel, press 1. If you'd repair that quarter panel, press 2. So 1, replace, 2, repair. Again, that's 1, replace, 2, repair. And it's interesting watching the numbers come in because they are neck and neck. Keep them coming. So 1, replace, 2, repair. Oh, this one's a horse race. So be sure to vote because it's close. Looks like the numbers are starting to settle down. So again, we had another vote. All right. Well, that last vote kind of shifted it, but we're looking at 42% would replace it and 58% would repair it.
Good. So if we jump to slide 31, this is I'll call it the other view, the one that goes, oh, that's what it looks like. So you can see that it's got that depression. There's a difference, obviously, between the bore and the quarter. And if we jump to slide 32, you can see a little bit of a close-up. So white is a horrible photo or a horrible color for photos to make a judgment call. So that's one of the first things I always like to tell people is when it gets down to white car, try to get twice as many angle shots because it's very deceiving. If the camera doesn't pick up the light the right way, it doesn't look as bad as it really is. But in any case, we're here to talk about panel repair, right? So let's jump to slide 33. And with aluminum, the first 3 repair opportunities or techniques are the same. So we have the PDR rods, the small glue pull system that we have. It's a proprietary kit. And we have that large glue pull tab system. And the fourth one is the stud welding. So that process and technique and tool system is a little bit different than steel. And if we jump to slide 34, trying to make record time here, Hart, with our slides. We look at the glue pull tab. Okay, so my phone's kind of in and out. But if we look at these glue pull tabs, we can see that
and I'm going to pause you for a second. We seem to have a little bit of phone interference, Brian. Hopefully you're back. You back?
I couldn't hear what you said. Was that to try to call back?
Oh, dear. Okay, so Brian, why don't you hang up and call back?
Okay.
In the meantime, while Brian is calling back, I want to thank all of you for being on this call. I want to remind you that we really listen to and appreciate the feedback that you provide. So sometimes we send short surveys after calls. You always have an option to also, Linda is a tremendous supporter of this program and of everything at Verifax. You can also send her an email or info@Verifax. And we love to hear your thoughts. And we do act on them. So if there's anything that you would like to provide, any information, speakers you'd like to hear, format changes, topics you're particularly interested in, we'd really appreciate it, and we'll take it into account and do our best to incorporate it in future calls and even future symposiums. So, Brian, I don't know if you're back yet?
I'm back.
All right, and you sound good.
Yeah, I made it through that wind tunnel, wherever that was. Okay, so this slide that we're on now, trying to make this quick, I've got a bunch of colored arrows here pointing at different access points. So the very first one is our PDR rods, the Eco Repair rods, that we're actually going through and into that gas filler neck area, because in this particular case, by removing the plastic trim around that gas filler neck, we actually gained a lot of access. Then the second opportunity shows the small glue pull tab, which is just to the left because there's some small amount of damage there. But where the larger damage is over to the right of that gas filler neck area. And that's where we actually need to have a lot more tension. We obviously use our bridge system to be able to do that. And if we jump to slide 35 real quick, here we have some of our older bridges that we had used in the past. We've updated since then. And you see these two gentlemen that are working on this panel. They're trying to get that up, and we're still using glue at this point. So you see the glue pull tab, you see the bridge. He's got a mallet, a knockdown tool in his hand. What he's doing is he's actually applying upward tension, and with the hammer and the knockdown tool, he's actually knocking down the high spots and the crowns that I call it buckle upward as the tension on the bridge is pulling upward. So then he's stress relieving and getting the material to go the direction he wants it to. And if we move to slide 36, you can now see a little bit closer up view of what we've done here. We've added some smaller glue pull tabs to address some low areas, and that was over by just above the door handle. We saw that dark gray shadow area in one of the prior photos. And now you can see the larger glue pull tabs that we used to use in the past. Now we have our other ones that are different sizes, shapes, and they're determined by the color. And if we jump to slide 37, you can actually see that if we remove all those glue pull tabs and we're using those PDR rods, you can see there's a photo of a heat gun and a laser temp reader. So to further finesse the repair process, we use our stainless steel PDR rods. They do need to be stainless, otherwise you will cross-contaminate the aluminum. In the heat gun, you can only use the prescribed amount of temperature heat on the panel that the vehicle manufacturer allows you to. So some OEM manufacturers have a 140 to 160 ideal range, and there's others that let you go up into the 300 range. The one thing that aluminum does do is dissipate that very quickly, but you also do not want to damage the alloy, the aluminum. So if we jump to slide 38, you could see our finished repair here. Obviously, we removed the rest of the paint, but the body line has been restored, and that panel has been saved. So with aluminum, it is difficult to do that, but it is possible. Again, referring to vehicle manufacturer instructions, with aluminum, you do need to work in an aluminum clean room for cross-contamination protective reasons. Look at the OEM work instructions for any heat guidelines that they might have. And then to the left, you see the tools that we had used that we were able to accomplish this with zero stud welding, no welding whatsoever. So PDR rods, the heat gun obviously, and we have our new glue pull system that has all the little tools, bells and whistles you want to call it, all together on one kit to make that simple and easy. If we jump to 39, we can see the before and after. So there you have it. That's what it looked like before, and then obviously once it's painted and we're finished, it looks just as good as new. And if we jump to slide 41, because it looks like we have another minute or so, the tools that you need for repairs, jump to slide 41, please. There we go. That's the aluminum kit if you're going to be welding aluminum studs. So we have that capacitive discharge stud welder, the bridges, the polish face, aluminum hammers, and that would be that basic kit that we would sell to our collision repair centers to be able to do that. And if we jump to 42, you'll see the difference between the steel kit. There's a little more tools involved. We weld keys, we have slide hammers. Those are things that don't apply to aluminum, but that kind of gives you a difference and also a feel for what's included in some of these kits. And if we jump to slide 44,
Oh, Brian, are you still there?
yeah, yes. Did it jump to slide 44? On my side, it doesn't show.
I think it did.
Okay, I can read off of my other screen. I did a dual screen just in case. So on slide 44, links to remember. So obviously the very top one is kind of an easy one to remember. There we go. Smart collision repair. And I always say nobody wants to do it the dumb way, so you should always remember smart collision repair. They all generally lead to the same websites, but steel panel repair, aluminum panel repair, and then for plastic, nitrogen welding. My contact info is there also, so happy to answer questions for anyone. We do have a training center. That's a Urbana Industries training center, and so if you take that information, call, we can get that set up. If you jump to slide 45, you can kind of see a little bit about what we do. So we have repair stands, mock-ups. We also do what we call live vehicle repair training courses at times. And we give the technicians, it could be estimators also, or insurance carrier, adjusters, riders, the ability to learn how hands-on, how to address the repairs, how to determine whether something's repairable or not. So please feel free to email us, and then we can talk about the available courses and training and kind of go from there. Hart, that's all I've got here.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Brian. You know, we might have time for one very quick question. So if there's anyone that would like to ask one very quick question, please press 1 on your phone. Again, if you have a question for Brian, please press 1 on your phone. And while I'm waiting, while we're waiting, I was going to ask a question, but we actually have a couple up. I'm going to call on Joel Feldman. Joel, you are live.
Oh, great.
Joel?
Is this more? Can you hear me? How about now?
Yes.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a headset on. Is this more of a sales thing for us to buy? It seems like it's more of a sales thing. I don't know. I missed the very beginning, who he was, and but is this more of like a sales pitch for us to repair more things? That was getting
Joel?
in here. Yes.
Yeah.
So what we do, Joel, is we have a training center that we teach people how to do the repairs, and we are also an equipment company. So we're not related to insurance companies. We're not related to car manufacturers. We're a third party, and we just look at repair opportunities and get technicians, estimators, and writers looking at what's really repairable and what's really not. So we do provide them the know-how, the knowledge, as well as the tooling to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. But just to reiterate, the purpose of these calls really is to present different perspectives on all different aspects. So, I mean, the question actually I was going to ask is, as a consumer, I think some repair shops have habits, and I'm always curious to challenge that. Is often habits become habits because they're really useful things. So the habit might be more likely to repair, the habit might be more likely to replace. And my question actually was going to be, like, as a consumer, what do I ask a repair shop to help them, to help undo whatever their habit might be?
Right. So, and all that gets down to information, Hart. So it's always their obligation to go to the vehicle manufacturer's website and find out what is a repair process for both replacement and if they have any statements regarding the repair. And vehicle manufacturers change those from day to day. So it's not something you can rely on saying, okay, well, last year I remember. That doesn't apply these days anymore. The the information that they post, host, and disseminate is very dynamic. So it is a repairer's responsibility to do that. So today something might be repairable, but tomorrow they might decide it's not. You know, finding that information and looking for it is something that they have to do very proactively, and that's really going to be the key.
Yeah. So thank you. So it's good. So I'm going to be sure to ask, what is the latest information that's been put out? And Brian, I want to thank you so much. It was an incredibly informative presentation. I want to remind there are a few people with questions. I'm so sorry that we're unable to get to them, but if you email them into Verifax, we will do our best to make sure they get answered and pass those on to Brian. Our next call is on Thursday, July 12th at 11 a.m. Pacific. And we look forward to seeing you there. Have a wonderful remainder of June. Take care. Bye-bye.